Hey, how are you doing? My name's Mark Ludy, and I'm thrilled to be able to be here with you. I got my son Dash manning the camera here. Let's see. Let's say hi, Dash. Say hi. Yeah. All right.
Hi.
Yeah. So he's the big cameraman today, and we're going to read a book to you. I had it suggested to me that maybe I could read some of my books and share them with you. So I'm going to read this book right here. It's called The Grump. And this was my second book I ever created, and it is a fun one here. Let's just start off. Let's get into this book here. A dog started to bark, and then another and another. Joining in the chorus were children rushing through the streets yelling, "He's coming! He's coming!" People did not need to ask who's coming, for they knew well who it was. Every Thursday this warning sounded, and when it did, all work halted and the streets cleared. A dog's yelp could be heard, and people knew his cane had found its mark. As he drew closer, they heard the tapping of his cane upon the cobblestones, which signaled each approaching step.
Dad,
yeah.
Can I sit over on the couch because I can't stand?
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Why don't you come on over here, Dash? All right. Yeah. Okay. You can sit down. Are you good? Are you good? You comfortable?
Yep.
Okay. All right. You got the video? Okay. Here we go. So we heard, as he drew closer, they heard the tapping of his cane upon the cobblestones, which signaled each approaching step. Then suddenly, the figure came into view. An old man dressed in rich finery, a tall silk hat covering straggly white hair. A scowl etched itself deeply into his face. The very sight of him made people tremble. They knew his spiteful glare. They knew his temper. And everyone knew his name. Mr. McCurry Brogan-Howweister, more commonly referred to as the Grump. Here's the page. You can show him the picture. Can you see it on there?
Yep.
Who's that, Dash, right there?
The Grump.
Yeah, that's right. That's the Grump right there. Now, the small but lively village of Dinkerwink had been settled hundreds of years before this day. Most of the families could trace their roots to Dinkerwink's beginnings. So, of course, they knew one another well. Now, Dinkerwinkians, they were a people of unique talents and quirks and oddities of all shapes and smells and shoe sizes. Miss Paddlewack, a most generous lady, was well known for her horrific apple pies. Her generosity spread pies throughout the homes of Dinkerwink, and because most Dinkerwinkians tried to be polite, they received her gifts with smiles and thanks. Mr. Bronco was a funny and charming man. He simply had to wear the same pair of socks every Thursday. Just by looking at Mr. Bronco's ankles, Dinkerwinkians knew for certain it was Thursday, the day the Grump would come to town. Oh, and sweet, plump Mrs. Millenberry. Oh, you'd like her, Dash. Now, she was a favorite of the children, for she gave them luscious peaches and cream suckers. They didn't mind that she had a laugh that shrilled and squeaked and wheezed and whined. Despite their differences, the people of Dinkerwink were friendly and liked one another, but no one liked Mr. Howweister. There he is. There's Mr. Bronco wearing his Thursday socks. You like that dog? Look at his little beard. Look at that thing. And there's even books. There's The Farmer up on the bookshelf, and then there's Going Bald by E. Ludy. That's my brother. There's also are you guys all right? Yeah. Did you fall? Are they still there, Dash?
Yeah.
Okay. Phew. All right. Now, should we turn the page? It's quite an adventure reading this book, isn't it?
Repeat it.
Repeat. Well, no. I'm going to go to this one right here. I'm going to read this next page. Now, in the village, no one exchanged words with Mr. Howweister except Marcel, the grocer. Now, once a week, the Grump hobbled into town. Do you mind if I lean back just a little and read here? So we're back. I'm introducing words with. There's no one exchanged words with Mr. Howweister except Marcel, the grocer. Once a week, the Grump hobbled into town and entered the grocer's humble shop. As was his custom, since the days Marcel's grandfather had been the grocer, he would go first to a rack of freshly baked bread. and help himself to a few loaves. He'd choose a round of cheese and a bottle of wine and make his way to the counter. There Marcel would greet him with a faltering voice and nervously take the coins from the Grump's outstretched hand. Before going his way, the Grump was distracted by a little girl who sat on the stool next to the counter. She just sat there, looking at him and smiling. Seeing this, the Grump would grunt disagreeably. It was customary for him to make his time leaving town, for he rather enjoyed the wide-eyed stares of the people and the ill effects his presence had on them. Are you filming this thing? Over here? I'm over here. There. Can you see me in that? Oh, there we go. Hey. Yeah, it pleased him to send one more annoying dog sprawling under the wrath of his cane. And numerous times he had whacked a young lad's ankle if the boy approached him on a dare. Seems like a pretty mean man, doesn't he? A short distance from the town, on the far side of Wallaco Woods, was his home. A dark and fearful walk for any but the Grump. The mansion atop a hill was guarded by a tall iron fence. The only entrance, a rickety gate of swirls and spikes. Aged stonework and gargoyles gave the mansion a haunting appearance. Entering his home, the Grump lit a candle and carried it through rooms of costly furniture. It all laid beneath white sheets, protected but never enjoyed. The house creaked and moaned, longing for breath in the staleness. He climbed the winding stairway to an enormous room where he lit a fire in the grate. There he sat with his pipe until the fire went cold. Then, as he did every evening, the Grump put on his nightgown, set his slippers and cane beside the bedstand, and went to bed, staring at the ceiling until he drifted to sleep. He was alone, and that was how it had always been. Let's turn the page. If you're reading along, I hope you're following along with me. Suddenly his eyes opened. Echoing through the empty corridors of the house came a knock. Was someone at his door? No visitor had lifted the knocker of that door for years. The Grump rose from his bed and slid into his slippers. He set flame to a candle and then hobbled through the hallway, down the winding stairway, and through the dark rooms to the front door. "Who's there?" But there was no answer. Again he cried, "Name yourself!" and waited for a response, but none came. Laying the candle aside, he lifted the latch and threw open the door. Moonlight and the freshness of night air flooded the entry. The Grump stepped out onto the porch, quite ready to give the trespasser a thrashing with his cane. But the perpetrator of this night's rude awakening was nowhere to be seen. Angrily, the Grump shouted, "And don't come back!" He turned to head back in, then stopped, his eyes drawn to an object near his feet. And there lay a crudely wrapped and ribboned package. The Grump bent and drew the package into his hands. He twisted it and turned it, shook it and stared at it. Then, with one last glance around, he went inside. Once he secured the door, he removed the wrapping. A confounded look crossed his face. He held before him, get this dash on tape here, he held before him neatly cut out paper people, all connected and folded like an accordion. He grunted. Then, thinking the gift a rude joke, took it in both hands, crumpled it, and tossed it into a dark corner of the room. Should we go on? Do you want to hear more?